what this is going to be, Cerrone. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning to Kyle Fabrizio back behind the glass as we get going here. Apologize to everybody who missed us yesterday. I know I woke up to a couple tweets about where was the show. I did genuinely appreciate that. Yeah. But Sunday morning show, as it will be going into the offseason, and we will get to the offseason. But so we get kind of a rare chance to do a post-game show here today. And what a post-game show we have to do after the Patriots fall 40-7 to the Los Angeles Chargers. This show is going to be a little more free form than we usually do. A little different structure, obviously, with it being a different time relation to the game. We want to hear from you, the people. How do you feel about your 3-13 losers of 6 in a row New England Patriots? 617-779-0985 is the number. You call in. We will get you on the air today. Also, if you can't call in, you want to tweet at us at RealAlexBarth, at Cerrone_battle. You can tweet at the show as well at Sun Kickoff 985. We'll be reacting to all that. But as we get started here, Cerrone, in addition to this show, I host the Sports Hub Patriots podcast with Matt Dolph every week for the station. You can find that on wherever you get your podcast, Sports Hub Patriots audio feed. We won't be doing a show this week because of the holiday and Matt's off, but there's a way we start every one of those shows that I feel is fitting to start today's show, so you get to kind of answer this question in Matt's place this week. In terms of the big picture, in terms of the long-term outlook, how do you feel about the current New England Patriots coaching staff coming away from that game?
Well, they got outclassed. You saw the difference between Harbaugh and a rookie head coach.
Yep.
They got outclassed. I mean, put it like this. I don't know what a good game plan would have looked like yesterday. I think a part of, let's just keep it to yesterday. Sitting there as the first game I've actually went to this season, saw them up close in person. The first thing I thought about this team after the first quarter was that was an SEC juggernaut versus a Mountain West team. It looked like a talent gap all over the place. Trying to get to Justin Herbert. Guys was on sitting there with my brother. I'm like, watch the pass rush. And there's always two guys on the ground. One guy, two guys. Somebody was always falling, being thrown to the ground. And it was like, I don't know what answers they'd have for this. I don't know how they keep this together. I don't know what options they had going into that game. But the coaching staff was clearly outclassed on both sides of the ball. Special teams, they got lucky on the penalty because that was a punt return or whatever it was.
Punt return touchdown.
Punt return touchdown that came back. They got lucky there. The field goal that I'm not sure that went in was kind of funny, but they got beaten all moments of that game. They had no answers for what the Chargers were doing, and I think the coaching staff kind of froze up, if that's the answer. After May went down, it was kind of like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And it kind of just sent a shock through everybody on the sidelines. And they got outclassed yesterday.
So the report for a couple weeks now, I should say the reports, plural, for a couple weeks now have been that, pending something extreme, Gerard Mayo would be back. The Crafts were going to run it back with him, and they had faith in it being a long-term project, et cetera, et cetera. It's been played on this station time and time again. We've seen that. The one yesterday for me in Rapport, this was actually written on NFL.com, was that barring a calamity, that was the word he used, calamity, over the last 2 weeks, Gerard Mayo would be back. Now, it's been kind of vague in these reports about what is off the rails, what is a calamity. I have interpreted that this whole time, and if you've heard me on the station, you know this. I've interpreted that as being like non-X's and O's football stuff. Yeah. They're getting blown out on the field, but you can't have players speaking out. You can't have players looking disengaged or fighting on the sideline. You can't have things like this and that. But yesterday, if the on-field product qualifies, that was a calamity on the field. And then you did have players speaking out after the game. Keon White, who this has kind of been a pattern now over the last week with him, does not seem happy. You're Pop Douglas, of all people, like the most positive guy, talking about, and when he says change needs to be made, I think he's just talking about they need to be better. But it's a comment that you're usually guarded against. My stance has been, anybody who's listened to me or read me for most of the season knows this, has been, Is there a case to fire Gerard Mayo? Absolutely. But I didn't think that if we're just playing the prediction game, I thought he was safe. This is the first game I come away from thinking, if we're just doing predictions, what we think will happen, not what should, but what we think will happen. This is the first game I came away from thinking he might be one and done.
Yeah, I mean that was the game to do it.
Yeah.
I mean that's the showing they had there with the game being moved to national TV, everybody watching, being embarrassed. We talked about this many times before. The most embarrassing moment for the Crafts last year was the game in Germany.
Right.
Everybody's watching. Kraft slumps his shoulders in the big coat. I think that was all she wrote. And that was a close game. They had a chance of winning. This one, as ugly as it was on the field, you had your quarterback getting knocked out. There was so many little things. Keon White's comments leading up to it, little things like that. Whatever you built from the Bills game last week, you lost it all in a couple days. Yeah, this would be the game to do it. But understanding with all the reports that Mayo's going to be safe, you're hearing it from everybody.
Yeah.
By halftime, I'm like, Covington's done. Covington is done. The way they couldn't stop anything the Chargers were doing, I said, yeah, Covington's probably done. This is it for him. And the coordinators, I think, was put on notice yesterday.
I certainly think coming away from that Bills game, it was, they had a great plan against Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. They had a great plan against Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I understood why people were talking about, did Covington save his job? Yesterday proved that Bills game was a blip. That Bills game was the anomaly. That was not late season progress. That was not building momentum into 25. Some of the things I talked about on the station this week it potentially being, and I said that it could be that. It could end up being the anomaly. That was the anomaly. Like I said, you call in today, we're going to get you on. This is essentially an extended post-game show. Joe and Leroy did a great job last night. We're just here to keep it going. 617-779-0985. Chad from Framingham, start us off this morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
Morning.
Yesterday was a perfect example of just the spotlight being, as bright as can be on everything the Sports Hub has said all season locally. I mean, you have them putting up graphics of the second-round trade back where Jalen Polk's stats of 12 receptions, Ladd McConkey, where they could have taken him at the beginning of the second round with over 1,000 receiving yards. You have, before the game, Gerard Mayo saying that Gibson's going to be starting running back, but then we see Ramondre Stevenson starting running back. The just dysfunction throughout the game, they can't stop anything. Like you said, it was a perfect analogy, SEC football versus Mountain West. So it starts at the roster, and it just trickles all the way down. I'm not for anyone being fired just because everybody has to make a living, but if you are truly looking out for the interest of your company and your football team moving forward, I personally think at this point everyone has to go because you can't just hire a new coach or a new defensive coordinator when you're still taking Jalen Polk in the second round as opposed to Ladd McConkey. So it has to start with the roster, and I just think it has to be, a clean sweep all the way down. And this is a perfect example, last thing I'll say, is a perfect example of anyone doing business. You do not write your future in pen, you write it in pencil because they locked themselves into Gerard Mayo post-Belichick, and it has just gotten worse. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Chad. Makes a lot of good points there. You got some real quick on that?
Yeah, real quick. The not just what he said, but a lot of people saying this at the game yesterday because Ladd McConkey was kind of lighting up. He just missed a third touchdown in that game. What would Ladd McConkey look like in this offense?
So I want to get to that. That's an important
point. Would he
point.
be that good?
I don't think so. And that's maybe the coaching and the front office. So we haven't mentioned the name Elliott Wolf yet. And I think I said this on the show last week. I said it a few times during the week this week. Gerard Mayo is going to get most of the attention this week.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why that is. I am not saying that that's like an incorrect take.
Yep.
And I understand why the coaching has been a big talking point for the last month and a half.
Yeah.
And should there be a change there? Again, there's certainly an argument. I wouldn't be surprised if there is. Problem number one for the Patriots is the roster.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring in a new coach and you give him this group of players,
same results.
I don't know that the results are going to be much different. I don't.
You just had the greatest coach of all time with one more win than what you got now.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, not just with Mayo, but with Elliott Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference between fire the coach and clean house.
Yeah.
Firing the coach, one and dunning a coach is already a very dramatic move. Doesn't mean they shouldn't do it, but let's all just acknowledge what that is. You don't see that in the NFL very often, the one and done. It's really not something that happens. The GM, too, from the top down, that would be a seismic shift. But as he mentions with Jalen Polk, Ladd McConkey, some other parts of the roster, that should be a part of the conversation, too. And that may come down to, a lot of people look at it as you hire the GM and you build from there. What some of the more successful teams do, and I believe in this, I can't believe we're doing coach and GM talk again. I can't believe it's a year later. I'm already bringing this take back, but here we are. I believe in hiring the coach first and letting the coach pick the GM. I think that it's the coach's vision for the product that's on the field. I want the coach telling the GM, this is the system I want to run. Go get me these sorts of players, as opposed to the GM telling the coach, this is the system that you are going to run with the players I give you. Yeah. So maybe maybe the Mayo decision has to happen first if he is back or not. And then if he isn't, who is the guy that's stepping in? Is it Mike Vrabel? Is it somebody else? But there's going to need to be a conversation about Elliott Wolf at some point as well, because I have said that I'm not in the camp that he doesn't deserve credit for Drake May. We took way too many calls on Marvin Harrison to say Drake May was an obvious pick. After that, what was their next big move? Austin Hooper's been a nice player. Antonio Gibson's been a nice player. Shouldn't be the second best
KJ
addition.
Osborne, gone.
Right. Shouldn't be the second best addition on a team that won 4 games last year.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before. Elliott Wolf, to me, is public enemy number 1. I think he's the one that I'd be focused on more than anybody else. This is you're asking a rookie head coach to turn a 4-win team into a playoff team with the same players.
Yeah,
and it's like, I can't win with this. We get on the coordinators. We get on what kind of game plan was that? What were they thinking here? Their talent is dictating what they're thinking. We can't do anything. We have to get ultra creative. We try and run basic plays. Things don't work. We try and we send 7 guys to Justin Herbert. 3 of them are on the ground. The other 4 getting stood up. It's nothing you can do because you don't have the talent. And to me, that all comes back to Elliott Wolf, his offseason, his drafting. I mean, he's missed on, I would say, I mean, they're all still rookies. They could get better as time goes on, but so far, you're not getting the results from any of these players that you picked up that are helping this team win any football games.
Real quick before we hit the break, Mike in Boston, I think, has a point that relates to this. Mike, thanks for calling.
Yeah, you guys kind of were like getting to my point here. How come Mayo gets a pass for the roster, but the coordinators don't? Isn't that the epitome of hypocrisy? It's like working backwards from what you want, finding excuses to keep Mayo, but blame and fire the coordinators by essentially using hypocrisy. I'd love to hear you guys' take on that.
Thanks, Mike. I actually thought he was going to ask the other way. Why does Mayo get because I've gotten this question elsewhere, so I'll answer that and then answer his question. Why does Mayo get a pass for the roster not being good? He didn't build the roster. Wolf did. We're used to associate, and that's not, we're used to associating the coach.
I'm glad
because Bill was both.
Because Bill did it, yeah.
It's different. Why do we say with Mayo you have to get him a better roster? We don't say it for the coordinators. I have said it for Van Pelt.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I don't give Mayo a ton of pass on the roster for the defense.
No,
and I don't give Covington because that unit. I think the offense, as bad as it's been, I don't know how much better it realistically could be with the players that are available. There's room, certainly.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's a significant jump. The defense has more talent than the level it's playing. If that's how it's that for me personally, I don't know if there's other people talking that way. I don't give Mayo a pass or Covington a pass because the roster needs to be better on defense.
No, I thought the biggest weakness coming into this game and after watching it yesterday, the Patriots front 7, they played horrible football, and they have been for most of the season. The only pass I gave Covington during the year was he lost Barmore, he lost Bentley, he lost Peppers. So the whole middle of his defense was gone when they were getting gashed on the ground game earlier in the year. He got a pass on that, but as time went on, it's like, dude, I think the Rams game was the game we were all like, yo, what are you doing?
You got to find answers. And I remember going back, it was clear Jelani Tavai was not the answer off the ball. Mm-hmm. And they ran with that for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
So,
and real quick before we take a quick break, the whole thing with Mayo and the coordinators, coming into the season, remember the whole conversation with Mayo and then the whole organization was they were going to let each guy do their thing. I'm going to let my coordinators coordinate. I'm going to let them do their thing. So that kind of puts pressure on them as individuals to do their job properly, and they haven't done it, and that's why Mayo's not getting a pass from anybody. I don't think he got chanted for him to be fired yesterday. He's not getting a pass. But the coordinators deserve their share of blame, and I think it's easier to replace a coordinator than it is to bring in a whole new coaching staff.
Dan, Mac, Jonathan, we see you on the line. This is the show it's going to be. Post-game show extended here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Alex, Barth, Cerrone, battle. More of your calls after this.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
just the lack of execution. Look, that's a good football team, and they're a well-coached football team. We just didn't play well enough in any phase of the game. No complimentary football. That's what you get.
That was Jerod Mayo's opening statement after the game yesterday. Pretty succinct, pretty to the point. Really can't push back on that one. All things he said at press conferences this year. And that was pretty spot on. We'll get to some of his other comments, specifically on Ramondre Stevenson not starting and then starting in a little bit. But phone line, we might have gotten more calls in this 23 minutes than we've gotten the entire year combined. 617-779-0985 or get you right on today if you call. These are all pretty look pretty similar kind of calls. So we'll just kind of roll through all these, then react. Jonathan and Randolph, we'll start off with you.
It turns out that Kraft is not too different from Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick wants to win, and just like everyone else drawing a paycheck from, the Kraft organization, of course, I believe that Kraft wants to win, but he wants to win their way. How Belichick kept hiring friends, family of friends, Bobos to win his way. Well, Kraft now, who had literally compared his relationship with Coach Mayo to his marriage, is now so invested in wanting him to succeed and wanting Elliott Wolf to succeed, his people internally to succeed, that I think the bar is going to continue to be lowered to allow those two guys, Elliott and Mayo, to stay. They're going to sacrifice everyone else, and nothing is going to improve because the standards of this organization from top to bottom have absolutely evaporated, and I do not see that changing.
Thanks for the call, Jonathan. So that's somebody who thinks Mayo's going to be back.
Yeah.
Which the reasoning he lays out there makes sense, but this is the first game I said coming away. I think that there's been a case, and I never thought he was going to get fired during the year. End of the year,
maybe.
I don't think he's getting fired tomorrow. I think if they make the move, it's Black Monday. It's the day after that last game. This is the first game I came away from, though, really thinking like prediction-wise, he could be a one-and-done coach.
Yeah, but here's the thing. A lot of people saying what the caller just said. It's Mayo. Kraft and he's hiring his friends, guys that he's familiar with. This is what we criticize Bill for. How does he bring Mayo in and then turn around and say we should hire Mike Vrabel? Isn't he a linebacker that played for the Patriots that's friends with Robert Kraft? Isn't it basically the same situation?
Will say, here's the one difference. He has experience as a head coach in the NFL, and that is, to me, we'll have this we can have this conversation more a little bit. The two names you hear, if they move on from Mike Vrabel, or if they move on from Jerod Mayo, are Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. Mm-hmm. If they make the move, I'm Team Vrabel all the way because I don't think replacing one rookie head coach with another rookie head coach is the answer. Mm-hmm. As great of an offensive mind as Ben Johnson may be, we've seen a lot of really good offensive minds.
Yeah, if they don't come with that offensive talent that they have.
And not just that, it's one thing to be designing an offense, and that's what you do during the week. You have to be a leader of men to be a head coach. You look at a guy like Josh McDaniels. You look at a guy like Mike McDaniel, who's 3-15 against teams over 500 in Miami. I don't want to hear how he's some sort of great head coach. He should be on the hot seat, frankly. Some guys are good offensive coordinators, and that's what they are, period, full stop. They're not head coaches. Dan Campbell is obviously filling the leadership quotient there in Detroit. I want a guy who's been there, done that. They need a guy that can come in with a proven program, establish that quickly. That's Vrabel to me more than anybody else. Let's go to Dan in Rhode Island. Dan.
You could set up a 24/7 Patriots hotline right now and be banged out. It's so bad.
Seems like
1-800 Pats suck. Listen, Alex, I agree with everything you just said about the one and done.
Yeah,
well, the teams don't normally do that, but in this scenario, to me, that's not germane because normally after Belichick leaves, teams don't do what the Patriots did in terms of replacing him. You know what I mean? The way it was built, and I just think that it's a rare circumstance, yes, but coaches don't get hired 2 years in advance. Period. With no experience. Well, I don't have to get into that, but the whole thing is just a cluster F that needs to go away. And I'll respect the Crafts a million times more to cut their losses now than try to compound it again next year when I'm calling in talking about the same stuff again. That's it.
Thanks for the call, Dan.
I think the biggest issue still, we've talked about this. you could bring in Bill Walsh and Bill Parcells to coach this team together. If you don't improve the talent on this roster, it's going to look the same next year. And that's the Chargers last year were in the same situation. You added little talent. You add guys got healthy first of all, but then when you have Justin Herbert,
yep,
you have Khalil Mack on one side and Joey Bosa on the other. Yeah, that's going to help when they're healthy. That's going to help your defense out a lot. You know, when you add these little pieces, they're getting a little more of the receivers than they got last year. You know, we wondered when they got rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, were they going to take a step back? No, they brought in guys that kind of complemented what they were doing with the roster and the coaching staff. So things can change really fast if you bring in the right talent. It comes down to talent with this team. We saw this team winning in the past because they had elite talent. Talent changed everything for this team, for this franchise. And that's what it's going to take again. You have to find more pieces to fill some of these holes and win some of these other games. Not again, we're going to win yesterday's game, but you lost a lot of games this year on one possession situations. If you have better talent, you win some of those games, and it's not as bleak as we're looking at it right now.
All right, well, along those lines, Paul in the car, I think, has a point to that. Paul, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I'm not sure which team you're watching. Obviously, the talent is not good, but Elliott did, in my opinion, earn himself another year because he nailed the third pick in Drake May. If he didn't, we're not having this conversation. And then I think with respect to Mayo, it's I watched a little bit of the game and I tune it off because the press conferences have become so inept on par with Bobby Valentine. It's almost more frustrating to watch the post-game press conference and hear what Gerard is going to say or is not going to say in respect to like what we're watching. I just don't feel like he's seeing what we're watching, and he seems awful comfortable for a first-year head coach. So I think it's time to move on from both of them, to your points earlier. But if anybody's deserved a second chance or a second season, it's Elliott, just for hitting on May. That was not a surefire pick, and he seemingly nailed it. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Paul. Yeah, he does deserve credit for the Drake May pick. That doesn't mean he's a guarantee to be back, but that wasn't as obvious as we thought. I want to touch on the press conference stuff. Obviously, Ramondre Steven, the big story coming away from yesterday. We'll do that, plus your calls, 617-779-0985, the extended postgame on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, Alex Barth, Cerrone battle, Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. It is a post-game edition, a true post-game edition of Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. And just letting people continue to vent, picking up where Joe and Leroy left off, 617-779-0985. I see a couple of you on the line. We'll get to you in a minute. I just want to touch on this first because we had a caller at the end of the last segment talk about the press conference stuff with Jerod Mayo. Look, here's what my view's been on the press conference stuff all year. It's not a great look that he comes out and some of the things he said, Jerod Mayo said in these press conferences, it's not you, it's me, was not great. The calling the team soft, although he was right. I don't know that was the best platform to say that. But I also just feel like if the press conferences were the biggest issue, whatever, fine. Like I'm more concerned that his team was soft than he said it post game.
Yeah.
Right? Things like that. There's lots of coaches that say goofy stuff at press conferences that are winners.
We just came away from the worst coach in football history when it comes to press conferences, and Bill Belichick, but no one cared when he was winning. Last year, everything seemed cringy because they were a 4-win team.
Right.
But when they're 14-2, you just let him mumble. We wear the shirts with his face, and we don't care. Winning changes everything.
The latest one's a little different, though. Becomes it was weird. It comes across as, I don't want to say a lie, but just disregarding the circumstances of the team. And that involves Ramondre Stevenson. So last week, Ramondre Stevenson lost fumbles, his 7th fumble of the year that leads the NFL, tied his career total collectively from the previous 3 seasons. After the game, I think it was the next day, Jerod Mayo was asked, is he going to, are there going to be repercussions? Is he going to start? And Mayo was non-committal. He was like, we're going to talk about it as a staff, which is usually not a good sign for the player.
Yeah.
So fast forward to yesterday, and this is Jerod Mayo pregame with Scott Zolak. This was recorded Saturday morning before the game.
Running backs are running hard. Take the fumbles away. Think you might get more Gibson today with some of Ramondre's struggles putting the ball on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. Gibby's going to start for us today. And look, our mentality for this week has to be, whoever's on fire, we got to ride that pony to the end. And so that's our mentality. And, in saying that, look, we expect Ramondre, when his number is called, to go out there and play hard and protect the football.
All right, there you go. And that's what I expected. That's what a lot of people expected during the week. Gibson would get the ceremonial start. He's been playing well, as Mayo kind of suggested there, right? Yeah. Right, the hot hand. And Stevenson would kind of be relegated to that second back role. First offensive play of the game. Not only is Ramondre Stevenson on the field, he gets the first play as a carry. Now, look, that was one of only 2 carries he had in the game. He was out-repped by Gibson ultimately, but a lot of that not before that final drive where they were just handing it off and that was garbage time. Mm-hmm. Starting outside of quarterback, offensive line, and corner. Starting in the NFL is relatively irrelevant. What I mean by that is a team might come out in like a 3 tight end jumbo set for the first play of the game.
And somebody's on the
to send a message, and your star receiver doesn't play, and then he plays the rest of the game, but he technically didn't start. But when you say that, what Mayo said, so I think what Mayo's thinking in terms of coach speak is Antonio Gibson's going to be our lead back. But he wasn't until the very end of the game in garbage time. And when it comes down to it, when you're going to say that, what he said to Zoe, and it also sounds like he said it to the TV broadcast based on what Ross Tucker said during the game, it's a ceremonial thing. You're sending a message to the roster. Because as much as I say starting is irrelevant, what I mean by that is it's not like basketball where if you start, you're playing the most minutes, right? It's you could play the first snap and not play again the rest of the game, but there is a ceremonial element to it. Your name gets announced. You're officially recorded as the starter. If you want to kind of send a message to a guy that you can't afford to take off the field a whole lot, which is the exact case with Stevenson, you have to send that message, and you can't go out and tell people you're going to send that message and not send that message. It's more coach speak lost in translation, but it's another example of his finger maybe not totally being on the pulse.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what the conversation was between him and Van Pelt. He might have felt that way. Is he allowing Van Pelt to do his thing as the coordinator?
Here's the other thing.
Did Van Pelt say, no, I need this guy. I'm running this play. I need Stevenson in on this play or whatever. And did he roll him out there? And is there confusion on the sidelines when it comes to why is he running out on the field? I would love to see the sideline interaction on that first play of why is he on the field? Was Gibson not ready? Was he doing something? Was he talking to somebody? Like, what happened in that moment? I would love to see the sideline camera of that.
Well, this was Mayo after the game on that.
Gerard, before the game, you said on the radio that Antonio Gibson would start at running back and then Ramondre was on the field. What went into the last-minute change there?
That was just a coach's decision. Can
I just follow up on that, Gerard? Did something change from the time you did the interview to the game to lead that? Or was there a miscommunication that maybe the message wasn't handed down?
I understand your question, Mike. Look, it's a coach's decision. That's why I'll leave it at that.
So he didn't say which coach.
Yeah.
So that goes to your point. And then I'll add this. Antonio Gibson talked to Nick Coit of ABC 6 Down in Providence last night and said, quote, "I was told nothing all week about me starting. Have no feeling towards that. We did the same thing we've been doing." So Gibson didn't know he was supposed to start.
Yeah.
Outside of if Mayo doesn't tell the broadcasts that Stevenson's, now some people might be upset Stevenson's starting after the fumble, but you don't, that's the only real evidence we have of that. Nobody else seemed to be on the same page, which, is that why they lost the game? No. In a season that has been marred by issues in communication, something like that stands out. Let's go back to the phones. Mac in Boston this morning after a 40-7 loss to the Chargers. Mac, what do you got?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Honestly, I was going to go on a rant about Robert Kraft, but I think that most of what has been said is, I think, everything that's been said on the line has been pretty requisite. I mean, the guy is just a bumbling fool. He's got an ego the size of the Eiffel Tower, and I feel like the entire team, as it's constructed right now, is really a testament to Robert Kraft's ego. He clearly thinks that he was the guy who was responsible for, building the team up to success and whatever, even though I think it's become very apparent that he got incredibly lucky with, the Belichick hire and then, Belichick's decision to draft Brady, all that stuff. I think the thing that I find funniest about this team is just how everywhere you look, there is a comical lack of professionalism. Specifically, Gerard Mayo, one thing I love that he does during the press conferences is he'll be asked about a player and he goes, "I'm not going to talk about the specific player." And then he continues to literally talk about the specific player for a couple of minutes. It is absolutely hilarious. Total clown show. Fire everybody. And that's it.
Thanks for the call, Mac. I think Barry in New Bedford's on the same page. Let's just clean these up. We'll react. Barry, what do you got?
Yeah, here's the thing. You mentioned the Chargers, Cerrone. Here's the deal. What did they do last year? They cleaned out the building. They fired Telesco. They moved on. They did a search for a GM, hired Ortiz. Did a search for a coach, hired Horborough. It took Jed York in San Francisco 2 years to clean out that building bulky before he hired John Lynch, and John Lynch hired Shanahan. That is how you do it, boys. You don't promote from within. They kept the dysfunction in the building. Kraft did none of this. Kraft treats the Patriots like his box business. You can fire the hack at the top and think the junior executive can run the team. Nothing's changed from the last 2 years. The same dysfunctions in the building. The only way to fix this, boys, is you have to blow this entire thing out. And I'm not even a Vrabel guy. I would have Flores than Vrabel. But you do it right. You hire the general manager first and let it take itself from there.
Thanks for the call, Barry. Flores would be on my short list. As I said earlier, I just want somebody who's coached a team before, and I think Flores got a raw deal in Miami.
Yeah, he did.
Flores, and hiring within from the outside. I understand that conversation. If we're going to be realistic about it, this isn't just a Patriots thing. NFL owners like people they have some level of familiarity, some level of experience with. So I don't think you're going to get somebody who has zero ties to the organization. Vrabel is kind of the perfect medium where he's never coached here. Mm-hmm. He's coached elsewhere. But Flores, Brian Daboll, if you really want to go offensive, I just think getting somebody with previous NFL coaching experience, you can keep Ben Johnson. If Ben Johnson would want to come here, which I don't know that would be the case, just give me somebody with NFL experience. But he addressed a couple of your takes there, Cerrone.
No, I was just going to say with a lot of these, I'm going to sound like a broken record with this. I never gave ownership credit for the winning. I never gave a lot of times the coaches credit for winning. I don't do it in any sport. It comes down to talent. You have to have talent. Talent wins games. And we have Robert Kraft. Yep, okay, he gets credit for the last Super Bowls. Robert Kraft did get a team was in the Super Bowl before Belichick was a head coach. A couple years before, 1996, this team was in the Super Bowl with a whole different roster. So that team got to the Super Bowl. Then Belichick's team got to a Super Bowl. You know, he got there with Bledsoe. He got there with Tom Brady. So, yeah, he's okay. If Robert Kraft is a terrible owner, tell me who the best owner is. Jerry Jones? I mean, come on now. But, I mean, it's talent. Talent is the key to the whole situation. I don't care what coaching staff you have. If Gerard Mayo had Christian McCaffrey, Samuel, George Kittle, and the best left tackle in football, they'd be a playoff team. With this crazy press conferences and all the stuff going on, they would be a much better team. You asked a rookie coach with an offensive coordinator who's never called games before to win with a team that the greatest coach of all time couldn't win with that roster. Mayo and Wolf are responsible for what? How many players, Alex? 8 of them? Out of this last year. What are they, 8 new guys, let's just say? 10 guys?
8 rookies, handful of free agent signings.
Yeah.
I ran these numbers, and I think it's like 60% of the roster is the same as last year.
Yeah, so you're asking him to win with the same roster we all cried about last year. They want to improve the roster. But one thing that has to happen with this team, you got to be attractive. Fire all the coaches. What coach wants this job? What coach is going to feel safe about this job? If the Patriots, if Robert Kraft fires a friend of his that he knew 2 years in advance after 1 year, what is a stranger going to think about this situation? We talked about it off air. It's not an attractive situation. So if you clean house, you better have guys that are willing and wanting to come here, not just Vrabel. You're going to need coordinators.
Yep.
You're going to need a GM that wants to come here. If not, Vrabel's going to be in the same situation he was in Tennessee, a team with no talent, with guys wanting out. So you be careful what you ask for. That's all I'm saying. But talent is the key to this whole thing. They have to get better on the field, and then everything else will fall in place.
I think it's an important point. If they do make the move, I think you need to know. And there's been a lot of reporting out there, and I've seen more this morning, that Vrabel's interested. If you know you have Mike Vrabel, or let's say you know Dayball's a little more complicated because, look, the Giants would be idiots to fire him. I think they're going to fire him because NFL teams are dumb, but the Giants would be idiots to fire him. But if you know you have Vrabel, you know you have a guy like Flores, you know, not just that they're interested, but you know that, they're not interested, but suddenly maybe the Eagles' job opens up after the playoffs, and now, I was interested, but I'm more interested in that one,
team
right?
with more talent. Yeah.
You need to know you have the guy because it is, if you're just going to fire Mayo blindly, you may not get an upgrade. And some people may be okay with that. Some people may just say, no, this guy's not the answer.
Let's try
the
again.
devil I don't know is better than the devil I do, and move on that way. But it is a relevant point.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Bengals lose that game last night. Do they fire their head coach?
I mean, there's a case for it. He's not done a good job. That's another one, though, where that defense is totally bereft of talent.
Yeah.
And Lou Anarumo's a very good defensive coordinator. It's that's a whole other issue. I think the real question is if the Bengals this offseason end up being forced to make a personnel change on offense.
Yeah, that's true. There's a couple changes.
We'll actually let's get to that next because I want to get to Ladd McConkey and Jalen Polk, and that will lead us to talking about T. Higgins and maybe one other wide receiver. If you've been listening to me this week, you know who that is. Plus, you want to keep calling in. It's a post-game show. Like we've said, keeping it going here. 617-779-0985. How do you feel about the Patriots? How do you feel about where they should go from here? That, your calls, wide receiver talk next on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Hello again. Phil Ng, General Manager of the MBTA, with a special holiday message to our riders. I wanted to say thank you for your tremendous patience as we completed our year-long track improvement program. Last year, we had over 230 speed restrictions across our subway lines, and today, I'm happy to report that we have 0. It took a lot of work on the part of our crews and a lot of understanding on your
for a touchdown, LA.
That's why you drive the ball that way. And we sit there and say, Justin Herbert doesn't put enough air in his ball. Because you throw that's a 53-yard dart right up the right hash. Perfect throw on the seam ball to McConkey. Take notes, guys. That's the type of receiver we want.
94 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's more yards than Jalen Polk and Javon Baker have combined this year. It's as many touchdowns as Jalen Polk and Javon Baker have combined this year. 4 catches short. Really should have had another touchdown, a couple more catches. He had the drops early on in that game. And this was a talking point. It's Alex Barth and Cerrone battle here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. This was a talking point going into that game. You know, the Ladd McConkey of it all. The Patriots had the draft pick, and they showed this graphic during the game where McConkey was taken. They elected to move down. They ended up moving down, I think it was 4 spots, and moved from the 5th to the 4th as part of the return. The Patriots, with those 2 picks, take Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. The Chargers take Ladd McConkey and a corner, Tarheeb Still, who is 3rd or 4th in the odds in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. So obviously the Chargers won that trade. Left a lot of people saying, look what Ladd McConkey did. The Patriots should have taken him. That's part of the conversation. I just, bigger picture to me, seeing Ladd McConkey yesterday in person, the Ladd McConkey you're seeing right now is not the same player he was at Georgia. He has gotten much better. He's a much crisper route runner. His recognition of spacing and coverage is better. The Chargers developed him into a player that could be a 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL. He crossed that threshold yesterday. I watched Jalen Polk. I don't see a ton of difference. And I had them graded similarly in the draft.
Yeah.
I had McConkey a little bit higher. I don't see a huge difference between Polk now and Polk at Washington. Baker, when we did see him, and we got to go back now a few months.
Yeah.
I didn't see a ton of progression from him. So you want to talk about identifying the right player. That's part of it. They still can't develop receivers.
There you go.
And that, to me, is as much, if not a bigger issue. You posed this question earlier, Cerrone. Would Ladd McConkey be putting up this production in New England? I don't think so. Would he be better than Polk? Yeah, probably. Would he be a 1,000-yard receiver? I don't think he'd be sniffing that.
With 9 touchdowns?
Right. Because they don't have the offense in place, and this goes to Alex Van Pelt. It also goes to, we've been talking about hot seats this morning, wide receivers coach Tyler Hughes.
There you go.
And Van Pelt is not an Elliott Wolf guy. He's not from that Packers-Browns tree like the rest of the offensive coaching staff is. He was here. He was at University of Washington last year. Before that, he was here. He was in the Belichick Patriots tree. They need to we've talked a lot about Gerard Mayo, Elliott Wolf, the guys at the top, the coordinators. I get why position coaches, it's not as sexy of a conversation. They need to get a wide receiver coach in here who can not just identify the talent in the draft, but once those guys get here, develop them. Drafting the right guys only half the battle. If we want to play the game of second guessing in the draft, I was texting a friend about this last night. It's really easy, hindsight 2020, to say they should have drafted Ladd McConkey over Jalen Polk. What I would say, and I said this at the time, the issue wasn't Polk or McConkey, because I think as prospects, they were about similar level. It's, again, about the development. They needed a guy who was more NFL ready. They needed to trade up and draft a guy like Xavier Legette, who obviously doesn't have the numbers as McConkey, but he's not in as favorable a situation there in Carolina.
Exactly. Yep.
Maybe even get really aggressive, go up and get Brian Thomas. They needed a guy who needed less development than McConkey or Polk. Yeah. Right. And that brings me to a point for this offseason. T. Higgins went off yesterday. There was some conversations over the last few weeks about DK Metcalf and his future in Seattle. He will need a new contract. He is in position to request a trade. He looked frustrated Thursday night.
Headbutting people.
I don't have a ton of interest in them drafting a receiver high because I don't have a ton of confidence in them properly developing him to get the most out of that pick. I want a guy who is as ready-made, as proven in this league as possible. I think that's Metcalf. Higgins would not be a bad option, but I think that's Metcalf. I'm good on Tet McMillan. I'm good on Travis Hunter as a receiver. I'm good on, if you want to maybe double up, now that's another story, but They need a proven, veteran, coverage dictating, top of the depth chart wide receiver. I want a proven guy because that game showed once again, it's not so much that, they drafted the wrong guy, the pre-draft evaluation.
So much more.
The development McConkey, the strides McConkey has made this year. Jacoby Myers is the one guy in the last 10 years, 15 years, even Pop, who's like a nice player.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a ton of development from him. He was just kind of good, and he was a 6th-round pick, a small school guy, undersized, not highly recruited out of high school, just kind of got lost in the weeds. Outside of Jacoby Myers, I have not seen them develop a wide receiver of the kind of development that Ladd McConkey has shown since probably Edelman.
Yeah. And you got to your point about where you graded Ladd McConkey versus Jalen Polk, you had them pretty similar. We had conversations after we mentioned Ladd McConkey's name 100 times on this show during the draft process. We both was in love with the kid. But to your point, where you had him graded at is where he was drafted.
Yep.
Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas, Legette Worthy, Keon Coleman were all taken before Ladd McConkey.
And I'll add one more, and if we're going to second guess it as well, A.D. Mitchell should have been. I never bought the off-field issues with him, and you remember I was banging the table for that guy.
Yeah.
He went later. He was more NFL ready than McConkey or Polk.
Right. And the league had him graded the same way you did. He was drafted the same way you had him graded. If you redid this draft, Ladd McConkey's going top 10.
Right.
He's going over all these guys. But that's the development. He wasn't the downfield threat in college like he is now. We compared him to the Wes Welkers and Edelmans, a dominant slot guy. You can't really cover underneath, but now he's stretching the field. He's doing all these extra things. The development is better in San Diego. They hit on their left tackle. They hit on this receiver. Yep. They hit everywhere on defense in the draft. I don't know if they hit as much as they developed, if I give them credit for that.
It's both. It's a little bit of
both.
But I don't think you can have a successful draft with one but not the other.
Right. You got to have it all.
You have to be able to, you can draft the right players all you want. No player comes to the NFL completely ready to dominate the pros. Not in the history of the league has one player come to the NFL just a ready-made star. You have to develop them. And even if you're great at development, if you're drafting the wrong guys, that development's only going to take them so far. You have to be able to do both.
And real quick, to Zoe's point, that touchdown. Oh, the way Herbert did this. The protection, the development of the offensive line was perfect on that play.
Yep.
The quarterback was perfect on the throw. Pro Bowl quarterback, all-pro level quarterback. And then the receiver did his thing. The play calling was perfect. All those things had to be perfect for that touchdown to take place. Those are the things the Patriots are missing. You got to have the solid offensive line. You got to have the quarterback with a clean pocket. You got to have the receiver running the right route and the right play calling against the right defense. All those things led to that touchdown. And the Patriots are like 2 out of 4 in some of those things and some of those plays, and they alternate from possession to possession. But that's why the Chargers are who they are, because all those things line up to Ladd McConkey being a good player.
No consistency. That's a good point. If there's one way to sum up this team, it's inconsistency. Jim, Ryan, I see you on the lines. We're going to get to you. I like what you guys have to say. I see it there in the comment section. We're going to go around the league first, though, here. 90 seconds, no commercials, just the headlines. Then it's Week 17 in full in the NFL here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
WBZ-FM and HD Boston.
Patriots!
From the opening kickoff to the final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass. 98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots have now lost 6 games in a row. They fell 40-7 to the Los Angeles Chargers yesterday afternoon at Gillette Stadium. The team has 1 game left at home against the Bills next week. 2 other NFL games yesterday. Absolute thriller in Cincinnati as the Bengals keep their playoff hopes alive with a 30-24 win. The Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9 in the late window. Coming up later today, the star of the 1 o'clock window, that is a game with draft implications as the Titans take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gets a little better in the 4 o'clock window with the Packers visiting the Vikings. And then tonight, it's a rookie quarterback battle with Michael Penix and the Falcons taking on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. We also had a handful of bowl games yesterday. A couple of local teams in action. UConn beat UNC 27-14 locally in the Fenway Bowl. Boston College fell to Nebraska 20-15 in the Pinstripe Bowl. A couple other notable results. BYU beat Colorado with Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter playing. It was a 36-14 result in the Valero Bowl. And in the magical game that is the Pop-Tart Bowl, Iowa State won 42-41 over Miami. The Bruins beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-0 yesterday. Jeremy Swayman had 18 saves in the shutout. And the Celtics, they are back in action tonight against the Indiana Pacers. Coverage begins at 5:30 right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-thru oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, now open in Weymouth, Canton, Bedford, and Natick. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 10 o'clock.
No matter where you go, you're always connected to Boston sports with the 98.5 The Sports Hub app. Download it wherever you get your apps today. Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle are here, talking football every Sunday morning with the insiders and with you. It's Sunday Kickoff on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Pick a target.
You pick it.
Take your pick.
Pick me! Pick me!
I did not pick. There was no pick.
Pick him up. You pick him up.
Pick.
I pick.
Pick me, pick me, pick me.
Pick the teams.
Pick one, jerk.
We are running well behind, so let's get into it. Week 17 in the NFL here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle. Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. We also have quite a few games to recap, more than usual. And we start with Wednesday's Christmas Day games, the Chiefs and the Steelers.
For the present, you get home field advantage.
The most predictable gimmick ever, Andy Reid coming down dressed as Santa after that game. Chiefs win 29-10. Look, we'll get to the next game, obviously. A lot of people had takes about the Texans coming out of that one. I think the Steelers were the biggest fraud that played on Christmas, more so than the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't show up really in that game. I thought they were going to give a better effort against the Chiefs, and it just didn't happen. That was kind of an easy one for Kansas City.
All right, let's get to the Ravens and the Texans.
Big trust. Woo, woo. Lamar Jackson in the flesh.
Not quite scoregami, 31-2 Ravens. I think it was the first 31-2 score since like 1968, sometime in the 60s. The Ravens are the real deal. The Ravens are the real deal. I think they are the scariest team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're the most complete team. I know they had some L's along the way, but I thought they were the best team in the AFC since the beginning of the season, and they're really rounding back into form again the way they started off.
Lamar Jackson, the MVP?
Yeah, I think Josh Allen holding that hand might have killed it for him, but one sneaky thing no one's paying attention to with Lamar Jackson, I think he has like 9 fumbles. On top of the,
9 fumbles, but he's only lost, I think, 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's a good number to know, though.
Yeah.
Thursday night football between the Bears and Seahawks.
Caleb was so accurate in the preseason.
Well, he wasn't accurate. He was 10 for 20.
He wasn't accurate in this game. Everybody who told me they don't want to watch, they'll watch any NFL game over any college football game. This is the any NFL game I'm going to make you defend. And an absolute
Christmas games, too. Those were boring.
Yeah. And those were playoff. I was told when playoff caliber teams play, it should be close.
Yeah, it
wasn't the case on Christmas. Bears are not a playoff caliber team. I don't know what the Seahawks are either. But in this absolute barn burner, this thriller, the Seahawks win 6-3.
Yes, this is a terrible game to watch. I mean, good for the Seahawks for winning that game. I know Geno's a little hobbled right now, but you talk about a team where everybody should be fired. The Bears. They did what they thought they could compete for the division. They added players. They cleaned up in the draft, and they're just as bad as the Patriots. Now, that's an organization where everybody should be fired.
They already started.
Yeah.
They fired a couple people already. Selfishly, Glad to see DK Metcalf looking a little frustrated. Get him out of there.
That's
you know
good.
that meme where the dog's stuck in the store and the guy's like, I'm going to get you out of there. That's me to DK Metcalf for the next 3 months. Let's move on to yesterday. We've obviously talked at length about Patriots Chargers, so let's get to Bengals Broncos.
Looked like Superman when he was throwing it. So I'm calling him Superman from this day forward. Batman, Superman.
This Bengals playoff run is so fun. So I asked you if Lamar should be the MVP. I think he should. If Burrow sneaks this team in the back door, though, boy, has he been awesome this year.
Yeah, he's putting the video game numbers in. That was a good game for them. That was against a decent team. We're not going to act like the Broncos aren't a good squad. That's a good win for the Bengals.
And I'll say specifically, they lit it up offensively against what is one of the best defense in football, 30-24 overtime win. I think T. Higgins is going back. Everything I see, people I talk to, I think things are trending towards T. Higgins being back in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, why would you leave Joe Burrow? Why would you leave, with Jamar Chase being on your left? I mean, hopefully Jamar stays.
Well, there's this model now. We've seen the Eagles do it. We've seen the Dolphins do it. You have the quarterback. You keep the quarterback happy. You pay the star receivers, and then you just figure the rest out in the draft. And it's a good draft for defense. I know people say this isn't a good draft, but it's a good draft for defense. That's what the Bengals need. The offense is more or less together. They don't have another big contract looming on the horizon. I know Patriots fans saw that game yesterday and started drooling. He's not out the door just yet. That's all I will say. One more game yesterday. The Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9.
Once you tease me, you're going. He's a war daddy.
Hey, Trey McBride finally got in the end zone. 96 catches to start the season without a touchdown. That's a new NFL record. But look, they're out of playoff contention. They got down on the goal line there, and everybody knew what they were trying to do. Little slip screen gets it done. Good for Trey McBride. Good player. Fun player to watch. I'm glad he finally got the touchdown.
Yeah, it's a bad way for the Cardinals to lose that game, though, with the ball bouncing off his helmet like that. But, I mean, it's look, the Rams are finding ways to win games to kind of hang around. Good for them. That's a good win for that team.
They will play Seattle next week, and the winner is in the playoffs. Winner's going to get the division. All right, let's get to today. We'll start in the AFC East with the Jets and the Bills.
I love my wife's feet. I don't know what it is.
Settle down, Rex. Bills, 9.5-point favorites. They win. They lock up the 2 seed. They would officially have nothing to play for next week. By the way, 9.5 largest spread of the week.
Yeah, I think the Bills win this game. I think the Jets are trying to play a little better football. Rodgers is getting this thing going a little bit, kind of selling his little program there. But I think the Bills win this one at home. Hopefully, if Josh Allen is feeling better after that hand injury last week, or elbow, whatever it was.
If you're a Bills fan, you saw the Patriots in your building take you down to the final minutes last week.
Yeah.
And then you saw what happened to them yesterday. You concerned?
You better be.
What does that game say about the Buffalo Bills? Nothing good. The Jets have played them tough. I think the Bills win. I think the Jets cover 9.5. This one could be big for the Patriots. Titans at Jaguars.
I like to do a little bit of rapping.
Go ahead. The Jaguars 1.5-point favorites at home. Cerrone, you said to me during the break, there's so many 3-win teams, and there really are.
It's a lot of bad football.
At least one of them's getting, well, I shouldn't say maybe it's a tie, but likely at least one of them's getting 4 wins today. So potential draft implications here for the Patriots, especially if they win next week. Also, I've gotten this question a few times, people looking at the draft order. Well, why are the Patriots picking second in the first round and then 6th in the second round? Mm-hmm. When teams are tied for records, the tiebreakers apply to the first round, and then the teams rotate spots within the round. So, for instance, last year, the Patriots picked behind Washington in the first round. They picked ahead of them in the second round. The Cardinals were in that rotation, too. So, later in the draft, the fewer 3-win teams there are, the more it helps the Patriots. So, this has draft implications for the Patriots as well.
Didn't know that.
Jaguars, Titans, who do you got?
Man, give me the Jags. Give me the Jags. Take the home team in this one. I think the Jags still have a little more talent than Tennessee. Give me the Jags to win this one in an ugly one.
Brian Thomas makes the play. I think the Jags win late by a score. Let's go to another game with a 3-win team with the Raiders and Saints.
Coach, for the part of Raider Nation that is focused on the first overall draft pick conversation, what is your response to them?
Thompson, let's go.
That's honestly a good answer to that question. So the Raiders 3-12, Saints 5-10. Raiders are 1.5-point favorites. When did you print this out, Kyle?
This morning.
Okay, so that's the Raiders plane didn't leave for New Orleans until late last night. They had some flight issues. They had some issues with the plane. And Schefter's tweeting this out. I think they took off 15 hours to kick off to go across the country. So I wanted to pull up the live line This thing that Kyle printed out this morning is 1.5. The numbers actually moved to 2 in favor of the Raiders.
What?
Give me the Saints to cover and win.
No, that's some premium tanking right there by the Raiders. Let's get every reason in the world to lose this game. Let's just go ahead and get a new plane. We'll leave late. Give me the Saints to win this one. The Saints don't got to hide in the freezer to prepare for this game. So, they're back at home. Raiders aren't going to do anything to try and win this game. Give me the Saints.
I'm with you 100% there. Let's go to the 4-11 Panthers at the 8-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm just here with a weather report. It's a little bit cloudy out here, a little bit of rain. It's been raining all morning, but we're really excited to practice in the weather here, man. Good weather, it ain't too hot.
He kind of caught the rhythm of that song in the background didn't he? And he kind of started. That's the guy they miss. I know Lion McConkey is the numbers. I'm sticking to my pre-draft. I'm sticking to my gut.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
He's the physical specimen that, just throw it to him. He'll make the rest happen.
Put it up. He'll make a play.
Yep.
Bucks 8.5-point favorites in this divisional matchup.
Yeah, give me the Bucks in this one. The Panthers are going to play him tight like they've been playing everybody lately. But I think the Bucks, with a little more to play for, are going to come out there, throwing haymakers early. Give me the Bucks in this one.
Let's go to the 7-8 Colts at the 2-13 Giants.
In the upper quartile of winners, we're in the top quartile of that upper quartile.
So obviously the Giants are the only thing standing in between the Patriots and the first overall pick. Joe Flacco starting for the Colts. Colts 7.5-point favorites.
Yeah, give me the Colts. I don't think this game is going to be particularly close. I think Flacco has another one of those games where you're like, man, maybe he should be the starter, knowing he's not. But I think the Colts win this one and win by a couple touchdowns.
The Giants have a lot of losses, but they have a lot of close losses. You have a dome team going in a kind of cold, nasty weather in New York. I don't think the Giants win. I don't think the Patriots are moving up to 1-1. But is it a one-score game? Do they cover 7.5? I could see that. Final game in the 1 o'clock window, 7-8 Cowboys at 12-3 Eagles.
And so having said that, I want me some glory hole.
Eagles 8.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, give me the Eagles in a blowout here. Well, I'm not going to say a blowout because Pickett's the quarterback, I think, this week. So
yeah,
we might have to keep an eye on that one, but I still think the Eagles win this one with a strong ground game.
Cowboys are checked out. I think the Eagles take this one. Maybe the Cowboys cover that 8.5, like you said. Into the 4 o'clock window, 7-8 Dolphins at 3-12 Browns.
I think tomorrow, there's a birthday tomorrow. I just read it. There's a player's birthday. I should announce that.
His voice is nails on a chalkboard to me. Dolphins 6.5-point favorites.
Dolphins will win this one. They always beat up on the low guys in the league. So this is another one of those Dolphins games. Watch the Dolphins blow these guys out and become the story all week. And they're going to be talking about how dangerous the Dolphins are.
Temperature at kickoff. 51 degrees and raining. That doesn't sound like Dolphins weather.
Yeah.
This is a very weather-dependent team. Browns certainly covering 6.5. You know what? I'm going to be bold. Give me the Browns to win that game.
There you go.
Dolphins in weather? Absolutely not. This is the best game of the early windows, plural, 425. 11-4 Packers at 13-2 Vikings.
Here's Sam Darnold on the mic.
Seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts. That's not good.
Not seeing ghosts anymore. There's nothing like a good big NFC North late season matchup. Makes me bummed Joe Buck and Troy Aikman aren't at Fox anymore. Like I can picture being in high school. My mom's making chili, just got done shoveling. Packers and some other NFC North team on the TV. This is going to be a fun one. It's a pick 'em. Vikings half-point favorites at home.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think the Vikings pull this one out. And Sam Darnold's a classic case of you put talent around him, all of a sudden he looks great. Talent is the key, and I think the Vikings have enough of it to win this game.
I'm sticking with Toyota Thon, Jordan Love. Give me the Packers. Tonight, the rookie quarterback matchup, Michael Penix and the 8-7 Falcons against Jaden Daniels and the 10-5 Commanders.
Walk into your trap, take over your trap.
It's not Kirk doing that tonight. It's Michael Penix. Commanders in their trap, 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I'm really interested in watching this game, man. I think it'd be a fun one to watch.
It's going to be really fun.
This should be a good game. I'm a fan of Penix. I want to see him succeed. But I think tonight the Commanders get it. I think they're a better team, better kind of overall. Falcons had a good game last week defensively, but I think the Commanders get this win this week.
I feel like I'm maybe picking too many upsets. Give me the Falcons. I'm buying the Penix hype.
Yeah.
I'm buying the Michael Penix hype. I know he was last week, but another game under his belt. I think he does some things. And then finally, Monday Night Football, 13-2 Lions at 6-9 Niners.
You get used to eating filet, and everything's good. Life's good, but you forgot what it was like when you had nothing and you ate your molded bread.
How excited was the NFL for this one? You have Monday Night Football, Lions, Niners, NFC Conference Championship rematch, probably a playoff preview. We got this game right on the schedule. Niners are out of it. They're 6-9. Detroit still only 3.5-point favorite on the road.
Detroit big in this one. I mean, Detroit, I think it's a better football team. The Niners, they haven't been able to get right all season. Again, when all their best players started getting hurt, they started looking like everybody else. Again, talent. When you don't have all those all-pros on the field, everybody looks normal. And your boy Shanahan, Alex has been on Shanahan more than anybody else, deservingly so. They should have done more with that roster, and it looks like to me the window is closing. Give me the Lions to put an end to this Niners thing.
I picked a lot of upsets today, Cerrone. You know I'm not picking this one. Give me the Lions big over the San Francisco 49ers in a 10-loss season for Kyle Shanahan. That's Week 17 in full. Jim, Ryan, Deshaun, I see you on the phone wanting to talk Patriots. You want to join them, 617-779-0985. Right to your calls when we get back on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
on yesterday's game. Jim, good morning. Thanks for hanging on.
Good morning. Thank you. I have to vent. I am so frustrated with the Patriots. First of all, the announcers themselves were marking the Patriots. How embarrassing for the Crafts on national TV, on the NFL Network, to be mocked openly and publicly as being the worst team in football, with one of the worst coaches, and everything they did yesterday was awful. Gerard Mayo has lost the team. White's comments about his frustration with the coaches and how he's being used tells me he has no confidence in the coaches. Kraft has got to do something. He cannot stay with this. Experience matters in everything you do, whether it's business or other. He would never turn over his paper company to some fast food restaurant manager or something. You have to have experience. And these guys have no experience. And they're destroying the team and the brand, and they're a laughingstock. And it was a public laughingstock yesterday. The announcers, whether they were Patriot haters or not, they just vented on the Patriots. It was embarrassing, and I was embarrassed for them. And that's all I have to say. Although, Alex, I do want to say I agree 100% with your comments about the wide receivers and the lack of coaching that they have on the Patriots.
Yeah,
that's it. Thanks, guys.
It says, thanks for the call, Jim. It's as much a development issue as it is, you pick the right guy all you want, pick the right guy, pick the wrong guy. Even if you pick the right guy, you still got to develop him, which has been a bigger issue. But my question to you, Cerrone, kind of touched on it. Keon White's comments yesterday, really through the last couple of days, about, he's not sure about his future. He doesn't feel like he's being used right. He doesn't think he's on the same page as the coaches. You had some other players on the record, off the record yesterday, starting to talk more about the coaching staff than they have in recent weeks. The one defense of Gerard Mayo all season, fair or not, has been, well, look, the players are behind him.
Yeah.
And people who don't like Mayo kind of come back and say, well, what do you want him to say? And it's, if they really get upset, they will say it. I don't think guys aren't going to blindly defend coaches that are putting them in bad spots. At a certain point, they're going to look out for their livelihood, and they know what they say matters. And if they feel like the coaches aren't allowing them to earn what they think they're worth, yeah, you are going to hear guys say things. I do think it holds weight when players defend coaches. Yesterday was the first day that the coaching has really been a talking point in the locker room postgame following Keon White's comments from this week. Do you think Gerard Mayo has lost the locker room?
I don't think he's lost the locker room. I mean, Keon White was frustrated before the game. He had we heard from him during the week.
Yeah.
He was frustrated before the 40-7 game. He gets out on the field, and after his comments, first thing I'm looking at is in the trenches. Okay, what's Keon White going to do after his conversations all week? And he's on his back. He's getting thrown around. Him and the rest of the D-line were looking up at the banners as, Chargers players are running all over the place. A lot of them are saying, changes got to happen. You know what some of those changes are? Them. You're not performing as a player. Keon White lined up on the left side. He lined up on the right side. He lined up in the middle. It didn't matter. He wasn't being disruptive. So, coach is not putting you in the right – well, where's the right place then? They're putting you all over the D-line. You're not making plays. You're not making plays in the ground game. And I think what's happening with Keon White and a couple other guys, they understand that in the NFL, when you're in a bad team, the roster can be flipped over faster than the coaching staff or anybody else. And they're starting to be like, well, why am I taking the heat for all this? Well, I don't know. The coaches ain't doing – it's not my fault. They're not putting me in the right place to succeed. Oh, so now after – 15 games, you've been in the wrong place. That's the problem. At the end of the day, Keon White should have been better than we thought. They were putting him in the right places to succeed the first month of the season, and all of a sudden now they're not because he's not being productive. Pop Douglas, he's starting to look like he's a late draft pick guy. He doesn't look like he's first-round talent. He's frustrated. Yeah, they're all frustrated. They're mad. I don't think they've lost the locker room. I think some of these guys are starting to defend themselves as opposed to the coaching staff to try and save their positions, not just with the Patriots, but around the league. Don't. It's not me. They put me in the wrong place. But at the end of the day, these guys aren't good enough, and that's why they're losing some of these games.
Deshaun in Virginia. What do you got?
Hello, guys. Good morning.
Morning.
I wanted to say, when it goes to looking at this game, like I said, And I talked on the Patriots four-game show yesterday. It's like when people look at and to see why this team can't have consistent, sustainable performances, it's like I said, their playing is not good enough at all. And in order for you to have some type of consistency, you got to have some components on the team that's pretty good, like a great offensive line. You got to be good in both sides of the ball, as far as between the trenches. You got to have some receivers. You got to be good somewhere. And the problem is with this team is they're not really good anywhere. And that's the reason why when I was telling them yesterday that I think they should seek some outside help. Somebody's not really affiliated with the team like that. It's like some type of consultant for the talent, especially at the receiver position, because they've done an atrocious job at doing so. And that's why I think when I look at this draft, I probably would double up if I could go ahead and get probably T. Higgins and try to trade for DK Metcalf. Or if I'm going to go for a receiver, because people keep talking about Travis Hunter, if I'm going for the best quality receiver in the draft, I'm going T-Mac.
All right, thanks.
That's just my take on it.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Deshaun. Talent, and we're talking about the coaching today because that is the first decision the Patriots are going to have to make this offseason. That's a big talking point coming out of the game. But I've said it. You've said it. If we are listing the biggest issues with the New England Patriots right now, talent, the roster, that is number one. That needs to be addressed, not just in free agency, but in the draft. Ryan, I see you on the line. We're up against it, but Ryan has a call on the draft. I want to talk draft. We're going to do that right when we get back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
It's the
Morning, and thanks for holding on.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just want to say there hasn't been a Sunday morning this season where I haven't been dialed into you guys, so just want to say appreciate all that you guys have done. So with the play on the field being literally downright offensive to watch at times this year, I've been focused on the offseason for probably about the past 2 months, maybe even longer, Barth. So I want to thank you for all your draft coverage and making me a certified draft nerd.
Long way to go.
Yeah, we got a long way to go. But no, guys, I look at it, and there are so many holes on this team when it comes to offensive tackle, wide receiver, edge. You need a sideline-to-sideline middle linebacker. You need a true deep safety. You need an interior defensive presence next to Christian Barmore, and who knows what his future's like. So obviously it would make sense to trade back. My one holdup with that is, Alex, what if you're landing at 2 or you're landing at 3, and the rest of these quarterback prospects aren't as enticing as they were in past years? Is it better for the team to just stick and pick best available in a draft that apparently doesn't have a lot of blue chip prospects? Maybe they stick and they pick someone like Abdul Carter, or is it better for them to try to see what they can finagle, trade down, and then we trust Elliott Wolf to make the right picks with what he gets?
Really good question, Ryan. Really good question. So a couple things there. I do think this is a 2-quarterback draft. I don't know how much you saw of Cam Ward yesterday in the Pop-Tart Bowl, which ruled, by the way. Best bowl game. Awesome. On the field, the Pop-Tart antics, the ritual sacrifice, all of it. Great. Cam Ward was good again in that game. I can totally see a team talking themselves into Cam Ward being a top 5 pick. I can absolutely see it, and
I think it's going to happen.
We'll see with the Raiders today. Maybe they beat the Saints, and they're in that top 5, or they're just outside of the top 5. They need to move up. I could also see a team moving up for Travis Hunter in the way a team would move up for a quarterback.
Yes,
I could see that. So even if it is just Shedeur Sanders, maybe you still get that haul. Should the Patriots stick and pick? Should they move back? If they really like Travis Hunter, you probably have to take him at 2.
Yeah.
I don't think you're moving back and still getting Travis Hunter. Now, I've said for a long time, I think Travis Hunter is going to be a corner primarily in the NFL. Mm-hmm. There's been multiple reports the last couple of weeks that that's how NFL teams view him. Jay Glazer of Fox said last week he talked to 13 NFL GMs. 12 of them told him that they see Travis Hunter as primarily a corner. Is there a need for the Patriots to have a second corner? Yes. That is one of the few positions where you have a blue-chip player, though. You move back a couple spots. Abdul Carter still in play. Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks still in play. Ted McMillan, if that's the route they go, still in play. Like, when I say move back,
the Patriots doesn't mean the back of the draft.
No, they're not moving. I wouldn't move back beyond, 8. I'd have to we'll see what the exact order ends up being and where these quarterback teams fall. And even for 8, you need a haul for that. You're not moving back far. There's not a lot of blue chip talent. It's not a great draft, but there is some. And they need talent. They have so many holes. And if you can get an extra top 50 pick, if you can get an extra second-round pick this year, if you can get an extra first-round pick next year maybe, I think you, in what is supposed to be a really good draft, it's early, but in what is supposed to be a really good draft, I think that you have to seriously consider that because you need more avenues to acquire blue chip talent. You don't just need one really good player. You need multiple really good players. And the reality is at this point, yes, certain positions are bigger needs than others. Tackle, receiver, edge rusher. But you need them everywhere. And it's just about acquiring talent where you can get it. So I think trading back is we'll see how the board shakes out. The way it's looking, trading back should be strongly considered.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you with that. And to me, one of the bigger needs, the more watching yesterday's game, I want a disruptor. I want somebody in the front 7. I think having a disruptive force helps the secondary out, getting to the quarterback quicker. I just looked this up during one of the breaks. The Patriots have 28 sacks this year. They're right ahead of Atlanta for the worst in the league.
Which, by the way, isn't that kind of funny where Matthew Judon got traded as the one team behind the Patriots?
Still worse, yeah. And then you look, the Patriots only have 7 interceptions all season for their defense. I think they go hand in hand because if you look at all the teams here at the bottom, Jacksonville, 3-win team. They only got 28 sacks, 5 interceptions. Carolina, 29 sacks, 8 interceptions. Cincinnati has 39 sacks. They got 15 picks, though. But Vegas, 8 interceptions, 32 sacks. if you get to the quarterback, you force turnovers, it gives your offense the ball back again, more short field stuff like you saw yesterday. I think you take that pick. I'm trading it, getting another pick, whatever. I'm not moving back as far like you said.
Yeah, couple spots, 2, 3, 4 spots.
I'm going after Abdul Carter.
That's your guy?
I want Abdul Carter. I think he's a disruptive force that changes everything on the back end. I think you can still get, if you move back, you get him and you get another first rounder or a second rounder, you can still get a good corner. You can still get a good, there's a left tackle you can get in the first round or something like that. But if I'm sitting there at 7, 8, whatever, I'm taking Abdul Carter, and he's my building block of my defense. I got Gonzalez, I got Carter. Now Keon White might be a little happier. He's got another guy next to him that takes the attention. Barmore comes back. Now you have a disruptive D-line. But I'm sorry.
I still think tackle. Look, my philosophy at the end of the day is build it from the trenches out. Mm-hmm. And that's on both sides of the ball. Yeah. I would not call Abdul Carter a bad pick, especially if you trade down and then you move back up into the end of the first round and you take a left tackle like Josh Connerly from Oregon or Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. Like, I would say that was a good draft.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be tempted by Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks at the top, especially because it's been talked about as being a bad draft. The one position where this draft is deep is pass rushers, is edge rushers. Ohio State has those two guys that are dogs. Patrick Payton from Florida State is a guy that's projected as like an early day 2 pick that could be a fit. But Abdul Carter absolutely fills a need, absolutely would be a good pick for him, and a guy you can probably move back a spot or two and get. I just want to see him build in the draft specifically. I said my part on the wide receiver. I'm not super interested in a rookie. I want a proven veteran.
Yep.
I want to see them in the draft build up these trenches on both sides of the ball.
Do you think you can get Calvin Banks if you move back a little bit?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, you think you can get him like 6'7"?
It depends. If Will Campbell checks the box to be a tackle, definitely. If not, well, now Banks is probably going ahead of Campbell. Maybe you need to be at like 5, but I trust them to do the math and figure that out and get in the spot they need to get him. Some of that will also be like, does a third quarterback emerge? Like, does Jalen Milroe have a really good bowl game and suddenly a team talks themselves into Jalen Milroe?
That was my next question for you. I'm glad you said that. Who's going to be this year's J.J. McCarthy?
So
watching these playoff games, they're really going to ramp up now that the good teams are the ones that are left for the most part.
Right.
Who's going to be – is it going to be more than one guy because of this playoff that's going to come out of nowhere and be, he's can't miss, top 5 pick? Like, are you going to see quarterbacks like last year going into it? We knew Drake May, we knew Jaden Daniels, we knew Caleb Williams. By the time we got to the end of that thing, it was Michael Penix, it was J.J. McCarthy, it was Bo Nix. Do you see 3 more names getting into this to where teams are going to feel like, I got to get one of those quarterbacks, and it becomes a quarterback-heavy first round again?
So Jalen Milroe, maybe. That would be later. That would be like the combine and stuff like that. I can't – the guy I look at for that, and I talked about this week, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I think he sucks. But do you remember how I felt about J.J. McCarthy?
Yes.
I did not buy J.J. McCarthy.
I still don't.
But why did J.J. McCarthy go as high as he did? Because NFL teams saw a guy with a leadership quotient who was going out and winning big games every week. It didn't matter why he was winning the games. It didn't matter that he wasn't throwing the football. He was the quarterback for a winning team. He looked the part. He was right out of Central Casting, right? So, again, I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't think this guy's very good. But I look at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Will Howard carves up an SEC defense.
And
not
everybody
very good
watched.
SEC defense. Yeah. Carves up an SEC defense. He now has a chance to knock off the number 1 team in the country in Oregon. Mm-hmm. Another very good defensive team. After that, I think I got to pull up the bracket. I'm actually blanking now, but it's another one of these blue blood teams that he would get to face. Yeah. Another good defense that he would get to face in. And then that would be the national championship, right? Probably Penn State or Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
If Will Howard doesn't suck and goes through a stretch of beating Tennessee, Oregon, and then likely Penn State or Georgia, there's good, and maybe he doesn't move into the top 5,
Oh, he goes top 10.
But there's going to be some NFL GM somewhere that says, this kid's winning games.
Oh, because he's going to be in all the interviews. He's going to be doing all the press.
We're going to hear about how well
his girlfriend. You're going to see everything about this kid.
It's going to be the same stupid. And I'm not saying, if it was the Patriots, I would say, stay away. This is not
but you know they're not involved. So
be more clear about this. This is not me saying I think Will Howard is a good prospect. This is me saying I think NFL teams are dumb about quarterbacks. I saw what happened with J.J. McCarthy last year.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that name up because I had this conversation with somebody the other day. And J.J. McCarthy went like 15, so I think that's probably the ceiling for this. If we do another dumb, he's a winner quarterback, I do think it's going
to happen. You know it's going to
be Will Howard. I don't think it's going to be Quinn Ewers. I can't believe Carson Beck had another year of eligibility and is still declaring for the draft, even though he's not going to get drafted.
Someone's going to take him too. It's a Georgia kid.
No, he blew out his elbow. I think he's going to go undrafted. I have no clue why he's not going back. Maybe Dylan Gabriel makes a push too. I could see him, but the NFL is very wary of lefty quarterbacks, so I'm already dreading having to do Will Howard. Prove me wrong, NFL, please. I would be happy to be wrong, and we don't have to have a serious conversation about Will Howard. Let's run through a couple more of these calls before we get out of here, and we will start with John in Marshfield. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Along the lines of what you guys just talked about, I think getting the number 2 pick is going to be really important because I totally agree. They need multiple bodies. It's not one guy coming in at WR or OL and it's happy days here again. They need volume of help, and they're only going to get that, I think, with the number 2 pick, where you can get one of the QB desperate teams. And I think Cam Ward is absolutely the real deal. If the Patriots have the air quote luxury of having that problem solved, which is really a big advantage. Because if they didn't have Drake May, I'd be using that pick for Cam Ward, so you can monetize that. But more fundamentally, if they don't address the top to bottom crisis that they have organizationally, it's not going to matter. Because you look at Washington and you look at the Chargers, they were the Patriots last year, literally, record-wise. They are both legitimate playoff teams this year on the rise. And in most cases, we're not much difference in personnel. So if you have a dysfunctional organization, all this stuff doesn't matter. The final point I'll make is, and this is unforgivable, and why I can't believe Wolf is still employed this morning. There's no wide receiver in this draft who's going to step in and be as good as the pick the Patriots gave up, which the Chargers saw. Pick 34 has 1,000 reception yards, and yesterday got more yardage than all of the Patriots rookie receivers combined all season. Why does Wolf still have a job?
Thanks for the call, John. A lot of good points in there. I'd say when he talks about, the Chargers and the Commanders are the comp. The Chargers are a little different circumstance because they already had the quarterback, but no, the Commanders cleared it all out. Came back, totally new staff, totally knew everything, and we're good. That's a absolutely fair comparison to make, 100%. We already talked about the Ladd McConkey thing. Did they pick the wrong guy? Yeah. I think that's only half the story.
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
You want to point at Elliott Wolf? I think Tyler Hughes deserves as much blame in that because Ladd McConkey is a much better player now than he was at the University of Georgia. Jalen Polk has not had the kind of development, the kind of progression that Ladd McConkey has had, and that is on the coaching staff, that is on Alex Van Pelt, that is on Ladd McConkey, and that is on Tyler Hughes.
Yeah, and I was going to tie this into the draft. I was going to ask you this a little while ago.
Yeah,
if you bring in another receivers coach who's solid at developing, do you not go heavy in wide receiver when it comes to the draft because now you trust him to develop? You still have Polk, you still have Baker, you still have Pop Douglas, whatever. Can he develop those guys to be better than what they are, or is the damage already done?
I want a guy who's proven. I want the least risk possible.
Still bring in the Metcalfs and T. Higgins, of course.
If they want to go take a flyer on a guy with some upside, day 3, have at it. Go for it.
Bring in another receivers coach. That's my point.
They should bring in. Yeah, they should have a new receivers coach next year. We got a couple more minutes. We got to be quick here, guys. But let's go to Colin in Worcester on receivers in the draft. Perfect, Colin.
Hey guys, I really like the idea of going back, trading back, picking up a tackle with the 6th or 7th pick, wherever you fall there. And I would like to see the Patriots get an extra 6th or 2nd round pick and maybe even pick up 2 receivers in the draft because you need to find someone at that position. There were a couple of guys I had my eye on. Isaiah Bond out of Texas. He's a shorter, quicker guy.
Yep.
And Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I don't want to see him draft 2 receivers. Yeah. You got to. That's more focused on the development. That's guys you got to get on the field that are taking snaps away. Like we just did this, right? Mm-hmm. We just did this, and I know maybe it'll be a new staff. Isaiah Bond is an okay prospect to me. He's a little just a speed guy. Trey Harris will be interesting. I need to see him test. Both guys that certainly should be on the radar. But I don't overload it with young guys. They just did that, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Go out, get proven veteran talent. If I'm them, I'm not taking a receiver in the top 100. I'm adding a T. Higgins. I'm adding a DK Metcalf, maybe another mid-tier free agency guy, and then you want to take one guy late in the draft. They're not going to have room to roster all these guys.
Yeah.
Right? Pop Douglas is going to be back. Jalen Polk's going to be back. Whether or not he actually plays, he's a second-round pick. He's going to be back. So you're going to have Douglas back. You're going to have Polk back. You're going to have Bourne back. You're probably going to have Kayshon Boutte back. That's 4 guys. You're adding a veteran. That's 5. You need room to roster these guys, too. And finally, Nate in the truck. Nate.
Hey, you're talking about all these guys, receivers. You act like these receivers are like 1,000-yard receiving guys. All those guys can be cut right off the bat, okay? So their problem right off if you look at it, is that you draft a surefire guy, okay? Surefire guy is T-Mac, okay? You trade back, like you guys are talking about, get more picks because they're good at developing defensive guys, okay? Yep. You get the T-Mac, you get T. Higgins. You guys got to put in perspective, too. How many of these big-time receivers actually make it to the free agent market? They don't. Justin Jefferson,
so do you think Higgins is going to make it?
He might not. They're talking about trying to keep the guy. So you got to seeing that the Patriots have a tough time drafting receivers, you got to get the surefire like they did with Drake May. He landed in their lap. So get T-Mac. You know what I mean? And then eventually you get in the second, third round, you get the defensive players and develop those guys. You're good at that. Do what you're good at. And the things you're not good at, let them land in your lap and you pick them. I mean, it's not rocket science. And go back 2 callers ago with the whole dysfunction. Big Papa Kraft, he has to go because this guy's long in the tooth and it's dysfunctional. So Tom Brady is left. You guys can sit there and say, they had no plans. They brought in Cam Newton. Really? And then he goes and he picks Mac Jones. The owner picks Mac Jones. I mean, that's another reason why Bill had to leave. Like, it's just awful the way they're picking these guys and developing and rotating these guys. It's awful.
All right,
the organization is awful right now.
And to your point on the development, Ted McMillan's not a sure thing. He's a really good prospect.
I was just about that. You beat me to it. McMillan, if anybody watched, that Arizona team was getting blown out a lot, and he was getting a lot of late yards and touchdowns as on a bad football team. So he's not a lot guaranteed.
He's not
either.
A sure thing, especially with how they develop wide receivers. The surest thing to me is picking a guy in the trenches. All right, that'll do it for us here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. We will be back next week. I don't know how much Patriots-Bills we'll be talking, Cerrone. We'll be looking ahead to the offseason, but it was good to be in studio with you. Kyle Fabrizio, great job as always. I will be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. with Mark Dendero. Talk to you then. Bye.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Right now at Wendy's, you can get a small Frosty for just $1, and everyone is going, including you. Just a hunch. The iconic Frosty for $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Not valid in a combo. Third-party delivery prices may be higher.
'Tis the season to buy during the Ford Get Holiday Ready sales event at McGovern Ford of Saugus, Lowell, and Framingham. We have the commercial line of Ford trucks for your business. Ford Super Duty F-250, E350 cutaways with box, Super Duty F-450s, and F-650s with dump bodies, towing, hauling, and snow blowing. Do it with a Ford tough truck. Ask about 2024 Section 179 federal tax deductions. Palms Portuguese and Habla Espanol. Shop the Ford Get Holiday Ready sales event now at McGovernTruckCenter.com.
This is Ty Law, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Have you ever seen 100,000 square feet of pure fun? Come join us at Apex Entertainment in Marlboro. Be amazed at the 30 luxury bowling lanes, a